Yeah, hello. How are you, Hathor? Nice to meet you.
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, so
Good.
I wanted to hear a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your life, anything that you'd like to tell me.
Yeah. My name is Hathor Brown, and I'm from Denver, Colorado. Born and raised by way of New York, by ways of Barbados. My family comes
Okay.
from Barbados, and yeah, so just really, really interesting, how it got here. But I'm a mother. I'm a daughter. Um, I've been a wife a few times. I'm now a
A
small
few
business
times. All right.
owner.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I started a little bit about me and just kind of how I got to where I am. Was I started my professional career in the healthcare system.
Okay.
I was a nurse. Um, and was kind of just going, with the mainstream, going with the flow. Um, not really questioning societal norms.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so I was in healthcare system. I was working and still going to school. And I thought to myself, I don't know, one day I just had this epiphany, like, why are people dying and getting horrible diseases like MS or Alzheimer's and dementia
Mm-hmm.
early on in life, probably in their 50s. I had patients that had it in their 50s and 60s. And, typical thinking is those diseases come later on when you're in your 70s, 80s, 90s. And so it just got me to thinking. And I had a patient that was 102. We were celebrating her 102nd birthday. Her name was Joey. And I asked Joey, I says, Joey, how did you live so long? She happened to have some relative sanity. If you spoke to her, she was blind, but if you spoke to her, she would remember your voice and she would remember, your conversations through the week.
Okay.
And she says, when we were kids, we had our own garden. We planted our own vegetables. We made our own bread. We had our own animals. And so with that thought, I ended up quitting nursing school, my last week of clinicals.
Wow.
And I decided that I was kind of going to buck the societal norms and I was going to dive head first into holistic medicine.
Okay.
And with holistic medicine, for I started out detoxing, getting out a lot of junk, and then one for my health. It came at a perfect time because I had just found out that I had some cancer. Um, and so, yeah, it just put me into a whole spiral of changing my life,
Yeah.
um, changing the way I live, changing the way I think, changing the way um, I respond, right, to what
Yeah.
society tells me I should do, I should be doing, how I should be, right, raising even my children, how this passes down. Um, so that furthermore just led me into creating a small business.
Yeah.
Um, my small business is called Brown Healing, and it the central theme of it is decolonizing our lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that be health, first and foremost, your health, what you're putting in your mind, and then everything after that. Um, whether you're no matter what your heritage is. I'm Barbadian and Eastern European, French and
Mm-hmm.
German.
Mm-hmm.
So being able even to connect with my ancestry really helped with even just benefiting my health, right? Like my long-term health,
Yeah.
getting to know, what my ancestors ate, what they used for medicine. Um, yeah, really kind of got me to where I am now.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I live a style, and I advocate to everyone to decolonize their
Yeah.
lifestyle.
Yeah. And how would you describe decolonization of a lifestyle?
Decolonization of a lifestyle. So firstly, you have to know what colonization is,
Uh-huh.
right? It was many tools, quite a
Yeah.
few tools. I think researchers have really even broke it down to like 7 or 8 tools of breaking down people, breaking down what they thought, and implementing a new system,
Hmm.
getting those people to live by the new system.
Yeah.
So part of that decolonization, first and foremost, for everyone on the planet, is getting back to the original, your original creation story. So
Yeah.
where your people came from, the
Hmm.
stories that they told to their people, long before Christianity was
Yeah.
ever a thing.
Yeah.
Um, so even starting there, um, getting back to eating, natural fruits and vegetables, getting off of the processed foods. Um, those are two of the main ways of decolonizing. But you have to know what colonization is
Yeah.
in order to be able to remove it.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I can understand and relate. I've had life experiences that have taught me the same things and about health and about I call it like cultural deconditioning. So
Yeah,
like every culture, whether it's your religion, your family, your country, whatever cultures you're involved in growing up, right? They kind of condition your mind to think a certain way.
right.
And so yeah, I can totally understand where you're coming from because I've gone through that process as well of trying to understand what's been taught to me and try to kind of block that out and think more just as a human, actually, to
Right,
realize that we're
exactly.
animals. So we need food, water, clothing, shelter, and I think good people to live a good life. And I kind of view it as everything beyond that is kind of a game. Money can help us in the modern world and everything, but humans didn't depend on money the way we do now for, I mean, all of eternity. So that's why I kind of
Exactly.
see a lot of the modern world as a game.
Right, right. And even, right, something as big as capitalism. That's something our entire society thrives on. That's what this
Yeah,
country and the world,
yeah,
right, thrives on.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if we removed, right, capitalism, and we removed the thought of thinking we have to even trade, to survive. Like
yeah,
you said, we're animals. We need shelter, water, clothing, right?
yeah,
Human interaction as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
But once we have that established, we can just live,
yeah,
and we can start focusing and putting our minds towards better solutions
yeah,
that'll help, our planet rather than harm it.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So even part of that too, part of decolonizing is thinking about our relationship to the planet.
Yeah,
Um, my business, Brown Healing Marketplace, it's about decolonizing our lifestyle. But part of decolonizing our lifestyle is getting even back in touch with the planet and with Mother Earth, as they call
yeah,
her,
yeah,
and our relationship, how we treat her, right?
yeah,
How we treat her is how we treat a lot of women. We find them as disposable,
uh-huh,
right? And so when we start being conscientious and thinking, okay, I need to recycle. Hey, if recycling is the one thing I can start today to make a difference, and we all took that initiative, it would be a global change. Like
yeah,
we would be able to solve the problem.
yeah,
Um, so really, really decolonizing, that's what I really advocate for. So much so that, I teach it to everyone around me,
yeah,
everyone around me. And that's my purpose when I know that that's what gives me the most fulfillment.
hmm,
Um, it's something I have to challenge people on, and they
yeah.
don't like
That's
it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. How receptive do you find people are to what you're trying to teach them?
People don't like it at all. They don't like it. They will get mean and nasty,
Yeah,
and they will argue till they are blue in the face.
yeah,
And there's just no way around it, you know.
yeah.
But at the same time, like, we have to hold space in that when you let things go, and when you let go of things that you love a lot,
Hmm.
it hurts
Yeah,
and it's uncomfortable.
yeah,
But that's not to say that you're going to die.
yeah,
And that's not to say you can't live a happy life.
yeah. A lot of times you need to get rid of a lot of that in order to be able to grow
Yeah, right. Growth, growth.
these preconceived notions or these ways of thinking. Yeah,
And folks don't like growing.
yeah.
They don't like it at all.
No. So one thing that I know that you're into spirituality as well, and that's probably a major element of what you're kind of advocating. The way I see things as well is a lot has to do with consciousness. So I feel
Mhm.
like you have to be on a journey in order to become more conscious, and that's part of the decolonization, as you say, or cultural conditioning that I say,
Right,
is
right,
that it's becoming aware of these things and being able to think for yourself and be able to question things and not just automatically believe anything that you're told because I have a hard time believing in almost anything anymore because of the fact that I know that I can hear one side showing me to believe this way, and I can hear the other side showing me why I should believe this way. And it's really hard to believe in things that I haven't experienced for myself. But it seems very easy for many people to believe a lot of things that they're told without actually thinking for themselves and without questioning, I guess.
right. Well, it's easy. I challenge people to do a few things. Is so when we talk about, right, even decolonization and the consciousness. So the consciousness, we have to recognize that we live in a society that doesn't endorse people thinking for themselves.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. So the moment you start thinking for yourself, you're going to be challenged. You're
Yeah.
going to have so many people coming at you and saying, "No, you're people have already figured this out for you. You don't need to
Yeah.
figure it out."
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just pulling or putting the carrot in front of the donkey.
Yeah.
But I challenge people to do two things. I'm wearing a shirt of my friends here,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Yep.
it's called Rebels in the Garden. And so he and I got on board with him because he advocates for people creating gardens in their backyard,
Yep.
and gardens
Hmm.
substantial enough to feed your family, right?
Yep.
But when we start gardening in our backyards, there's limits, right? Legal limits
Yep.
with our
Yep.
government that you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
Um, and the first and most simple is collecting rainwater. I
Yeah.
believe it's in Colorado. We just got it passed that the maximum rainwater you can collect are 2 barrel full.
Yeah. Probably those
Anything,
55-gallon drums.
right? Those
That's
55
yeah.
gallon drums. You
Yeah.
can only collect two.
Yeah.
And that was right. Like, even for that to be something that's legal or
Yep.
illegal,
I
right?
totally
It's
agree.
crazy.
Yep. Yep.
So that's one thing. And then
Yep.
that, and super simple. And then two is, try to have a baby on your
Yeah.
own. Try to have a baby at home, not going to the hospital, and see what kind of trouble you get in.
Oh, really? So that's kind
Really.
of yeah, wow.
That's a thing.
Uh,
That's a thing. I
yeah.
learned that up close and personal. Um,
Okay.
and so again, just challenging, right? Societal norms,
Yeah.
decolonizing yourself, And it all starts with thinking for yourself. You start thinking by yourself by asking questions.
Yeah. Well, there's even a lot of like touching on the rain, harvesting rainwater. I mean, there's even a lot of states in the country, or at least a lot of areas of many states, more so out east, I feel, where like it's really tough to even legally live off grid.
Yeah.
And there's some states where, yeah, I mean, you can't even be disconnected from the grid. You can have solar and you can be kind of connected to the grid that way, but they don't even really allow you to actually live off grid, even if you're in like a typical neighborhood. So I do notice though, the kind of once you get west of the Mississippi, it seems there's a bit
It's a
different
little
when it
bit
comes
more
to off grid.
liberal.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little bit more liberal, but the thing is that, especially because I'm really even into sustainability. I'm in the
Uh-huh.
sustainability sector. Um Once you start moving west, is that there is no legislation
Yeah.
written for uncharted territory.
Yeah. Okay.
A lot of that is just now being pioneered. And then where we start hitting bumps in the road, right, is plain as day, and it's just a fact, whether people like it or not, is Uncle Sam always wants his cut.
Yeah.
And when Uncle Sam doesn't get his cut,
Yeah.
he gets
Yeah.
really mad. And he
Yeah.
throws a
Yeah.
temper he throws a temper tantrum, actually.
Yeah.
Like, he needs to gain some emotional intelligence
Yeah.
and let people do for themselves, right? But that's not the business that Uncle Sam is in.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
So there but there's people that are doing that pioneer work.
Yeah.
Especially here in Colorado, I'm really proud of the people that are a part of it. Um, and so that's where I get involved in my community. Um, you can't expect change and not be a part of it,
Hmm.
right? And I'm just a person that I have to be part of the change.
Yeah. Well, that's very good. Um, do you want to talk much about your spiritual journey? Is there much to get
Mm.
into to that? How did you kind of go on that path? Was religion, like organized religion, a part of your life at any time?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
As an American, right, born in
Yep.
America, um, we start out as Christians,
Yep.
right? So
Yep.
um, my background starts in I don't know, my mom always called it a non-denominational.
Yeah.
Never
Okay.
understood what that meant.
I'm
Uh,
starting to understand it now. Yeah. I see that as just kind of blanket Christian.
yeah, a
And
blanket Christian.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So we started off as a blanket Christian. Um, Moved into more of a Southern Baptist.
Uh-huh.
My dad it started out Southern Baptist, and then we really even diverged into Islam.
Okay.
Um, my family practicing Muslims for quite some time,
Hmm.
and then yeah, just started off just like everybody else, right? Reading the holy books, reading the good
Yep.
books,
Yeah.
um, but just started thinking for myself
Hmm.
and said, first and foremost, like, how old is Christianity? How long has this been around?
Yeah.
What was there before Christianity?
Yeah.
What did my people, where did my lineage, the people that I come from,
Yeah.
best that I can research, right? Because even, me and my mom were talking about it even yesterday. Even as Europeans, we can only trace our history back a good amount. We can't get it all the way back to our village,
Yeah.
you know, but we can get it to a good amount. And
Uh-huh.
even those people were Christianized, right? But
Yeah.
learning what was there before Christianity.
Yeah.
Um, and just seeing, they say, well, how do you know you're not taking on everything,
Yeah.
right? Um, and how do you know what's for you? How do you know what's not for you.
Uh-huh.
It's about when you're learning, you're reading books or you're just getting research, what pops out to you, what stands out to you, what just calls your name so loud that you can't ignore it,
Yeah.
you know. And so for me in particular, it started with Egypt. um Hathor is an Egyptian name that I gave myself when I felt that my original name didn't suit me
Mm-hmm.
anymore. I wasn't that person.
Yeah.
I had I had changed my life. I had changed the way I thought. I
Yeah.
changed, what I did, how I operate. And because I changed, right, as a snake, right, the snake that
Yeah.
releases its skin, sheds its skin, I can't go by that name anymore. That I'm not that person,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I changed my name. Um, I changed my name based on what I was truly drawn to. What right, just like when you name your kid, like you want to name your kid something that they're going to live up to, something that they are, or maybe you
Mm-hmm.
feel that they are, that they represent. And so I chose the name Hathor. Um, she's an Egyptian goddess, wonderful, wonderful entity. There's a whole lot more if people can research about her, but
Mm-hmm.
that's why I picked that name. And
Okay,
so
cool.
then, yeah, and then learning like how to integrate it, right? Like, so you go from completely organized religion to now a different way of thinking, and there's always a period. There's always an integration period. Um, that the two parties have to meet and they have to come to an agreement,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then move forward from there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got on my spiritual journey. Um, I recommend folks, to kind of do the same, just kind of go down a path and trust your gut.
Mm-hmm.
It's a literal expression. For a lot of us, we think it's a metaphoric expression, but scientists have already proven, right, that what we eat affects our brain, right? The
Mm-hmm.
nutrients, the minerals and vitamins we
Yeah.
absorb in our stomach directly affect our bloodstream, which directly affect our brain. So
Yeah.
if your stomach is not feeling right, if it's feeling right off put, that's something you need to listen to.
Yeah.
If your stomach is totally drawn to that and it's like, I'm hungry, I want more of that knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
that's something you should dive deeper into.
Yeah, for sure.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah. I can agree with that. Yeah. So you're involved a bit with gardening at least, or do you have any interest? Are you familiar with permaculture, or have you? So you're kind of involved in some communities here, growing food and advocating for home gardening.
Yeah. Part of decolonizing, right, is being able to provide for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Stop asking society, the government, companies,
Yeah.
right? Big pharmas, whatever type of companies, any company, to provide your need.
Yeah.
So it started with COVID, really got into gear with it because during COVID, I thought about what if this grocery store shut down,
Yeah.
right? If the grocery store shut down and or if they're empty, what are people going to do?
Yeah.
People, and the real truth of the matter is a lot of people would starve and go hungry. Like,
Oh
right,
yeah.
you're going to have to go through
Yep.
your pantry, right?
Yeah.
But you think even further if it lasted however long. I'm kind of one of those doomsday survivalist people.
Yeah.
I check in with them sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
um, so started getting into gardening. Initially got a garden plot that was in Aurora,
Uh-huh.
which is my hometown where I'm from.
Yep.
Um, and took on gardening there. And so that's where I met James, who is in Rebels in the Garden. And
Uh-huh.
James and I collaborated on getting a community garden going. Um, because yeah, it takes work, and I'm right? Like I'm from a city, right? I'm from a suburb,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
big metropolitan. And for a long time of my life, even now, I've never lived in a house. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I've never lived in a house. I've never had a backyard. I've never
Uh-huh.
had a front yard. Um, so in order to provide for myself, right, I have to be creative. I have to be
Yeah.
innovative and
Yeah.
start thinking, what can I do to provide for myself,
Yeah.
provide for my family? So that's what drove me to get into permaculture and urban gardening.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, and looking
Yeah.
at all the cool ways of how to do that. A lot of it is pioneering. A lot of it is looking at people from other countries
Yeah.
and seeing what they do.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really interesting. It's a lot of fun. It's a
Yeah.
challenge.
I totally agree. And yeah, it is pretty amazing what you can grow indoors these days. And there's plenty of knowledge on the internet about how to grow food on your own. And I would say it's also not just about growing 100% of your food, but I think that I think a lot of many mental health issues in the modern day are related to the fact that as humans, we're living pretty far from how we've evolved over our existence. And when we just depend on money for our survival, okay, that adds a large level of stress. If we can lessen our dependence on money to some degree, and instead of buying all of our food from a grocery store and having systems in place around the country that produce that food and ship it to the stores, and then we go and trade our money to buy it. Well, if we learn how to grow some of our own food, at least, it also gives us a deeper connection to nature and to like that primal survival. So I think that helps mental health as well, because it can relieve some of the stress of the modern day living.
Oh
While at the
yeah,
same
for sure.
time, yeah,
And actually, there's even science to back that. Now they have, and you can call it mumbo jumbo, but nonetheless, like if you go and do it, it still works.
yeah,
They say that the earth puts off right ions and
uh-huh,
electrons, right? It
yeah,
emits it because we're on a living
yep,
a
yep,
living planet, right? Um and what it does is it literally takes the negative ions from our body
yeah,
and releases, right, positive ions.
yeah,
So a lot of our mental health could really be reduced if we got back into nature,
yeah,
right? Because for how long, for how many centuries before the industrial era,
yeah,
and people can check me because I'm a historian too. I love history. Before the industrial era, a lot of us were still doing things by hand. We were
yeah,
farming our gardens. We were plucking our own chickens, right? You want to make a shake and bake dinner or
yeah,
your chicken strips. You had to go and pluck your chicken.
yeah,
You had to kill your chicken,
yeah,
all that jazz. We were still very in tune with the land. We were
yeah,
very in tune with people,
yeah,
right? Interacting. If I had chickens and you had spinach, right? We had to know how to negotiate, how to talk and trade,
yeah,
so that we could both get what we needed.
yeah,
Um, so a lot of our mental health is based on, again, that
yeah,
societal pressures telling you what you need to do, how you need to sleep, how you need to work out, how you need to work.
yeah,
you know um we humans didn't work the way we do now. We
yeah,
didn't sit at a
yeah,
computer
yeah,
for 8 hours in our day.
yeah, yeah,
um so it's all decolonizing. I can't stress that anymore, but that word
yeah,
really advocates for every piece, right, of our body, of our
yeah,
spirit, that is not at its full capacity,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And the way I see that as well is like dealing with the earth. You talk about electricity, you talk about like energy. And like the word grounded, like feeling grounded, is
Mm-hmm.
literally like kind of stabilizing the charge of energy within your body from
Right.
being in connection with the earth. I believe it is a very grounding hobby or activity to do. And yeah, when I start to think about it energetically, I think, okay, yeah, when you're running a generator, you put a grounding rod in the ground for the
Mm,
excess energy to, to be able to flow, to be grounded. So I kind of
right.
look at it
And
in that
feel
term as
where
well.
people can challenge themselves because, right, people always say, well, that's hogwash.
Yeah,
That's not true. Um, go sit in a field
yeah,
and just be quiet and see how long you can sit.
yeah,
And if you think you have too much energy, which we all do because we have to, right? We live in a capitalist society that tells us we got to go, 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 go.
yeah,
Start training yourself to sit down.
yeah,
And you're not going to be successful at it right away.
yeah,
It takes time,
yeah.
you know. Um, but that's part of decolonizing. It's
Yeah.
it's a huge part.
Yeah, it's kind of bringing back the baseline. I think we get kind of
Hmm.
so revved up, like I gotta always be going, gotta be so productive, gotta always be doing something. But it takes a while to like start to unwind and get grounded and yeah,
Well,
take
and
kind of a
right then
like a
it also
pause.
affects your spirit,
Yeah,
right? When you feel revved up all the time, that's that's a it can go one of two ways. You and nonetheless it can go one way. You're always productive, right? You're always
yeah,
taught you got to be productive. Um, but what that does for the spirit is it gets it real hot,
yeah,
hot, hot, hot. And when you're hot, you got to burn stuff down.
yeah,
Like eventually you're going to go from making a fire or
yeah,
boiling your pot. I'm looking at
yeah,
my pot on my stove, going
uh-huh,
from boiling your pot to burning your pot,
yeah, yeah,
right? And of that's where we get a lot of our racial segregation,
uh-huh,
discrimination, prejudice, things like that.
yeah,
Because people's spirits are way too hot.
yeah,
And so we have to start doing things that are going to cool us down
uh-huh,
so we don't burn down the house, right? Cool us down and say, okay, now let's start thinking and operating from a more stable, grounded place.
yeah,
Okay? When people are angry, we know this. When people are angry, they make irrational decisions.
yeah,
They say hurtful things,
yeah,
right? And it's only when we cool down that we're able to think for a minute,
yeah,
think about what we're going to say because it's going to change how somebody feels,
yeah.
right? It might change how we feel. It's going to change the whole situation.
Yeah.
So
Well,
all of it plays a part.
yeah. Well, I totally agree, and I've really appreciated hearing a bit about your story and the changes that you've made in your life, and how you're living and how you're staying active in the community and everything. And yeah, I just wanted to say
Yeah.
thanks, and it's
Thank
been great
you.
chatting
I
with
really
you.
appreciate this. Thank
Yeah,
you.
likewise. All right, well, I'll let you go
Wonderful.
now, but it was yeah, again, it was nice speaking to you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Chris. You too.
All right,
Have a good
take
one.
care. Bye. Bye.